Welcome back to another episode of the live Q&A calls on Monday. And today we're going to be going over the big three. We're going to go ahead and take a look at exactly how we can get our Investment Dominator up and running. And for instance, this is a great day and a great call for beginners to kind of, get used to the Investment Dominator, as well as to walk through again with our big three. And if you're new to these Monday calls, the big three that we're talking about in reference is our profile section, our company information section, and followed by our domain section. So we're going to go ahead and break down all three of these items today, as well as answer any questions that you all have available. And we're going to go ahead and do this after our basically after our big three. And you can see on your screen right now, there is actually a way for you to submit any questions that you have. So for instance, just clicking on where the GoToWebinar question drop down is, go ahead, drop that down and send your questions in. You don't really have to worry about raising your hand, as I'll primarily be looking at the questions and responding to those right after our big three. So let's kind of just walk through more what we have on this slide. So besides going over the big three, we do answer questions. So you'll see our Thursday sessions as well is completely dedicated to our live Q&A, let's say a full hour of dedicated questions and answers that you have there. So today is going to be our going over the beginner setup, the big three, and then we'll go ahead and break down everything else. So you'll just see here the LPG deal flow, which is transparent through everything in the Investment Dominator. And you'll see in the beginning, you just select your target market, you get that list, then you mail out, you send your letters, you do some research, you make some offers, and the end goal is to market these properties and to sell them. So you want to keep in mind of some things when working with the Investment Dominator. For instance, your company information, your county data, your offer requests, phone numbers and websites, property details. So all this information on the left-hand side is you inputting it into the Investment Dominator, as well as some stuff you can output, which you'll see on the right, which are letters, offers, websites, calculators and tools, analytics, and team management. So we're going to go over some beginner items today. And if you do have questions about any of these subjects here, letters, offers, websites, anything like that, we can go ahead and take a look at that. Just keep in mind, if the question is really pertaining to business practices and things of that such, we're going to keep it general and we're going to make it appeal to everybody during this session, so that really anyone can benefit from this. So without further ado, now we'll go ahead and go straight into our Investment Dominator. So right as soon as you log into the Investment Dominator, one thing you'll notice is this Investment Dominator tour guide. So this tour guide will basically walk you through the available functions up here. So you'll see here these color-coded sections, land, houses, marketing, and notes. And then you have as well your task, customize, websites, team, and profile. So all of this information is gone through within this help guide, but let's say, for instance, that you've already went through it. You could just go ahead and actually hit End Tour, as well as selecting the No option here. So let's go ahead and start off with our profile section. So the first thing that you'll notice is there's a place for you to enter your first name, your your last name, and your email. This is all going to be used for technical support purposes. So really, if you worry about your information being given to third parties or anything like that sort, you really don't have to worry about that. But as far as that goes, along with the support, we are going to need an email to best reach you at, as well as a phone number where we can also reach you at as well. Keep in mind that you're going to add your time zone. So this is just going to best help how customer service or technical support can best reach you. So just kind of some key points about that. And the next section that we have here is our signature image. So this is very helpful when we're talking about our neutral letters, since our signature is going to be on our neutral letters. And let's go ahead and actually see a little quick tip. So you'll notice anywhere within the Investment Dominator, if you see a question mark in between brackets highlighted in blue like such, you'll notice it's a helpful tip that'll pop up. So these are laid out across certain fields within the Investment Dominator, and they'll actually just either provide you with a tip or just more information about the current section that you're focused on. So you'll see here your signature file should be in JPEG or JPG or in PNG format. So we have two different options for uploading a signature image. So you'll see the one that I have here. And let's say we wanted to actually generate a signature instead of uploading a signature image. So we'll go up here, and under the generate signature, you'll see a spot to enter your name. So I'll enter my name. And I'll go ahead and see. So the preview pops up down below. So if I want, I can choose any of these available fonts that we have here. But do keep in mind that we do not have access to any other fonts, just these that we have pre-selected. So let's go ahead with this one. And let's say, for instance, I wanted to change the color to something else other than the default. And if I move the slider over here, I can change the colors as well as adding just values here. But let's say I wanted to make it something along the lines of like blue. So while I can do that, one thing I do want you guys to keep in mind is, as you see in your signature preview here, when you're sending out your neutral letters and you're sending out, let's say, thousands of letters, the cost per mailing, due to the change of color rather than the default, so it's a premium upgrade to pick like blue. And you'll notice that it also changes your pricings when you're doing your mailing. So, while this does look nice and something we want to keep, just kind of keep that in mind as well too. But let's say we wanted to go ahead and actually test this. So you'll see there I just clicked update, and now the new signature that we created is listed above, while the old signature that we created is down here. So anytime we're doing a big change within the Investment Dominator, or any changes at all, really, you want to go ahead and just hit this blue button down here that says update, and that'll go ahead and change our new signature. So that's one way to do it. That was the generate signature option, and let's go over how to upload a signature. So for instance, if I go all the way back to, let's see, sorry, under signatures, so a sample signature here. So what I'm doing right now is basically selecting how much of my image I want. And what you'll kind of keep in mind when you're working with this is you'll have to really play around with it to make sure that it adds up to size and is the exact way that you want, especially because sometimes when you're working with your aspect ratio and your image, you'll actually notice that it uploads completely different than how you originally had it. So my recommendation is to try to get some outside space, like you saw me there. So, I really zoomed out a little bit to be able to grab that signature and grab it nice, so it's not too big in my mailings. And if you guys have questions about that, we can actually go over how we can adjust this properly, as well as add it to any custom documents if you so want. But once we're done with this, we can actually just go to the bottom like we did before and just update. And that'll go ahead and take care of that signature image. So those are two ways you can work with that. And the only two available options that we have here for our profile section is the password, where you can just change your password as well as the option again to enable your tour. So, if you're also working, let's say with Zapier and you're working with automation, one thing you'll notice is the API credentials down here, as well as the user guide. So if you need to connect the Investment Dominator to any type of services, outside services that you would want to use, let's say MailChimp, Google Sheets, for instance, DocuSign, any of those, you'll be interested in this section. So just keep that in mind. But that was our first item for our big three. And now we're going to go ahead and move on to our second item, which is our company information. So a couple things I want to bring up before we really dive into this section. So this is going to be jam-packed with information. So do take notes if you so choose. And we'll go ahead and take a look at that. Do keep in mind at any time you can go ahead and ask questions. So just go ahead and drop that in, and we'll go ahead and break that down after our big three. But so we have our company phone here, and we have our offer phone, as well as our selling site phone. So these are three phone numbers which we're going to want to put extra focus in and try to understand. And the reason why is because we're going to recommend our phone system setup that we have for the Investment Dominator. And we go ahead and use Ring Central. And along with Ring Central, you'll see that we have our Pat Live, which is a 24-hour call center. And then we have another number here, which is our offer phone, which is also just a Google Voice or Skype number. But we're going to go ahead and actually break this all down afterwards. But let's just go ahead and just break down the company information first. So company phone, you'll see here, like we mentioned, is one number. So 510-555-4545. This is going to be our extension 1. So this extension 1 is going to lead and direct to a what we have here is a 24-hour call center, Pat Live. We also recommend Smith AI, but just keep in mind that while we do recommend all these things, we've proven and tested it, but if you do find another alternative, especially for domains or something like that, then I recommend to just know that you do have that option, but our recommendations are going to be backed with articles and user guides kind of surrounding that. So just keep that in mind. But yeah, so next we have our company fax number. And again, we do have a question mark around these brackets here. So you'll see used for your contact us page and offer cover letter. But if you actually did not use a company fax number, for instance, you could either just leave it as blank, but just for the example here, since they might not be used as much, we'll just put NA. You don't have to do this on yours, but we'll just do that for demonstration purposes. Then we do have our company email. And what you'll see here with your company email is that this is going to direct all your emails related to the Investment Dominator to this direct email here that you have listed. Furthermore, if you actually wanted to condense all email notifications to just this company email that you see here, you can actually, like you see, I have for my offer email, it's blank, and my selling site email is also blank. So because these two options are blank, which is the other emails that you can have, all the traffic that's going to both of these emails now point towards my company email. So you can just have one center point where you can have all these emails basically gather up, and you'll be able to pick it apart from there. But let's go ahead and look at our next field here. So company name. And for company name, you'll see here we have an example, company name LLC. So you're going to want to keep in mind that while you're working with the Investment Dominator, you're going to want to be taking your steps so that you can begin getting your LLC and establishing yourself as a company. And while we understand that certain people might be in different steps in their business when they're first starting with the Investment Dominator, you'll really want to work towards getting these that name. So for instance, if you're in the process of getting your LLC name, and you not really have it confirmed yet, what you can do is actually just type DBA, which is stands for doing business as, and then your name. So a question that comes up for this too is, can we put our new business name that we have that we're working on? You really want to, let's say it's not set in stone yet. You really want to go ahead and just put your name, and then until it is confirmed, then you'll just wait to put this final form of the LLC right there. So just keep that in mind. And when we look at our company address, a very important point comes up when we're discussing this, and we understand there's a lot of people working remote now and doing their business from their home. While you are doing that, one thing you want to keep in mind is you do not want to actually put your real home address as your company address, and this is even if you are working remote. So for instance, what we recommend if you need a remedy for that situation, so let's say you are working remote, what you could end up doing is getting a mailbox at the UPS store. And once you do that, you'll actually just want to go ahead and type in your that address for the UPS store exactly, but you don't have to worry about putting any additional numbers. So if you have something like this within your company address field and you are sending out your mailings, one thing you want to keep in mind is this might look like spam, and it actually might result in something that since first impressions are really going to make everything when you're sending out these mailings. You want to remain your professionalism as much as you can. So even if you do have a box number or anything of that sort, just go ahead and delete that and just leave the direct address for the UPS store. So, the reason why, as to why you wouldn't want to put your actual home address is, let's say if you're sending out a deal and the owner is not very pleased as to the offer and gets offended, you don't want them to have your actual home address just for safety reasons. So just kind of keep that in mind. And also the UPS option is a great alternative to that. So next we have just your company city. So where exactly your company is located regarding the city, the state, and the zip code. And then next you see we have our offer phone, and one thing I'll highlight for right now is it's actually the same exact number as our company phone, and we'll be able to dive into that more once we break it down in a little bit. But you'll see here, this is the extension 1 to this number as well as the extension 2 to that number. So then we have our offer email, so all emails regarding just offers and kind of that step in process, they can either be input here, or what could happen is they can congregate to this company email above. Then we have our selling site phone, and our selling site phone is interesting because it's completely different than our company phone and our offer phone. This is because our selling site phone is going to be completely dedicated to buyers of our property. So we want to have this number as something that we can always be available on, basically to be reached, and kind of like an instant callback kind of thing. So reason being is, people are selling these properties for pennies on the dollar, and you want to be able to pick this up and be ready for that moment. So next we have our selling site email. Again, any inquiries kind of relating or revolving around your selling site can then, if you want, be directed to a specific email here or added to just your company email, again, like how we talked about. So the next section here is our company time zone. So depending on where you are in the world and where your business is located, you want to go ahead and just leave a good time zone for people to reach you at. And this is also followed by the company notes here that we have, which I like to just preface as like a kind of like a work hours thing when you can also be available. So let's say, for instance, your business is only available from Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. That's something that you just want to list out there as well. All right, so then the last couple of sections that we have here, so we have a real estate agent broker disclosure. So what you'll notice about this is if you are not a real estate agent or a broker, you can actually just hit no and just skip this part altogether. But if you are, you're going to have to disclose that information. So you'll see right as soon as you click on this, you'll actually notice how a little brief description pops up. So depending where you are in the world, you'll just want to either add more to the statement or maybe take off. But depending on if you are a real estate agent or broker, you'll know exactly what to put in this disclosure field here. So we'll just go ahead and hit no. And the next section that we could focus on here is our tax ID type. So with tax ID type, you have three options. You have SSN, TIN, or EIN. And one thing you'll notice about this as well is you actually do not have to submit this information. This is going to only pertain to people who are using our 1098 active loans. So for instance, if you need to print out your IRS documents for your active loans, we do have a direct way where you can print out these documents. And since you're printing out forms that are going to the IRS, you're going to have a identification number or a tax ID number where you can best be reached to basically assign those documents to you. So if this does not pertain to you at all, don't worry at all. You can just actually skip this part as well and just come down to the bottom and update your site. But now that we're completely through with the company information, let's go ahead and break back down our RingCentral recommendation for our phone system. So one thing you'll actually notice here is and let that load up again, sorry about that. We have our 2-line setup right here, as well as our 3-line setup as well. So we're going to go ahead and walk through our cheaper alternative and really beginner, I guess we would say, a recommended phone setup. So do keep in mind when you're working with your phone setup, you can never go wrong in investing early in how you'll be able to handle your business. So this 3-line setup is that alternative option. But this option that we have here, our 2-line setup, the reason why it's going to be cheaper is because we're actually going to have our 2 numbers that we get from RingCentral, and one of the numbers is going to split off into 2 extensions. So that number is going to stay the same, but it's going to split into a extension 1 and extension 2. So once our local number 1 splits off into an extension 1, you'll see that's where Pat Live kind of comes into play. So our extension 1 is going to be dedicated for people that are requesting an offer. So you want to keep in mind this is our new offer request, and depending on if you're sending out your mailings and you're hitting a high response back, one thing you'll begin to notice is that it actually becomes a lot easier on yourself and for the future if you begin to set this direct extension 1 to Pat Live. So keep in mind, RingCentral is a separate subscription along with the Investment Dominator, as well as Pat Live, which is a separate subscription as well. So the reason why Pat Live is a separate subscription is because this is a 24-hour call center, and we have a direct form as well as guides on how you can set up access for that Pat Live representative. And what they're going to go ahead and do is process all of your new offer requests. So this is going to be something overwhelming if you just were to put, let's say, your phone number. So really investing in your phone system can go a long way, but do keep in mind that you're not going to want to have your phone number for something like this. Request your cell phone number for something like this. You're going to want to invest in these things. So again, our provided 2-line setup from Ring Central. So that was our extension 1, which we went over. Then we have our extension 2. So our extension 2 is different from our extension 1 because it's going to be completely focused on any questions that we have about our offers that we sent out. So one thing that you'll notice about this, if we go back into our Investment Dominator, you'll actually see here that the offer phone is going to be pointed and directed to a Google Voice or Skype number, which we recommend. Again, you can use any other alternative out there, but we are recommending this. And this is because, unlike the extension 1, which can be picked up by a representative from Pat Live, your extension 2 is actually going to be, something more personal, since it's about questions for your offer. So you don't want to delegate something like this to a phone Pat Live. So you're going to want to actually go ahead and take this yourself. Again, that's why we're also recommending this right here, so a Google Voice or Skype number to go ahead and fill that spot. So what you'll notice is our local number 2. So our local number 2 is actually going to be completely dedicated to questions about our land that we have for sale. And, while we may not get to this step as much, when we're first starting out with the Investment Dominator, one thing you'll notice is that this number is going to actually be completely dedicated right there. So a dedicated number where you can be reached at regarding your direct communications about questions about your land for sale. So just keep in mind, you're going to want to not change these numbers going forward. So for instance, if you have all of your numbers set up straight away, your company phone, your offer phone, as well as your selling site phone, then what you'll see is that when you're sending out your mailings, you won't have to update these numbers afterwards. So what you don't want to do is change these numbers frequently and, let's say, send out a bunch of mailings. So you're going to have mismatch information, and you want to make sure that all of the information here is really just set in stone. And this goes for your phone system as well. So the next thing that we'll go over, lastly ending the company information section, is just our 3-line setup. So our 3-line setup is going to be more expensive option, but what you'll notice is you're getting really you're scaling your business well, and you have your 3 dedicated numbers provided from Ring Central, which you'll see here, and the 3 separate services that are just going on with our phone system. So instead of having an extension 1 and an extension 2, with this 3-line setup, you'll basically have your local number 1 completely dedicated to that 24-hour call center, Pat Live. So all of your new offer requests are being processed by this, and that's going to be a number dedicated to that. Then you do have your local number 2, which points to your questions about your offer, which is dedicated to that. And your local number 3, like we had before, 2 as well, is just going to be directed to your questions about your land for sale. So again, really when you start to scale your business, you'll notice that this becomes really effective for the future. But starting out with our cheaper line setup just to get things started will definitely work as well. But just keep in mind, these are the 2 phone system options that we have. So that is going to completely end our company information section. And now we can move on to our domains, which is the last section. Then again, afterwards, we're going to go ahead and answer any available questions that anyone has. So let's see. So we're going to want to click over to our help section here and then go to search our user guide. Now, when we search our user guide, we're going to use the keyword domain. So when we're searching through the user guide, you'll actually notice that keywords are really the thing to search for, not really sentences. And it's going to be the best way to kind of pop up these examples that we have here, as well as if you wanted to look for more articles later on. But the reason why we're going to go ahead and change our domains today is because we're going to create a custom domain. So rather than having this printed out on our letters, as well as people just visiting our web pages, we don't want to have the default domain that's provided with your Investment Dominator. You want to go ahead and actually create two custom domains, one for your buying site and one for your selling site. So this is all information that's going to be explained well within this article, and we're actually going to walk through this process. It's a step-by-step guide on how you can point your CNAME record to Investment Dominator, which is just explained here. And the example that we're going to use to set up our domains, just keep in mind for your buying and selling site, it's going to be the exact same process, just different types of names. So for your buying site, you could want, something like joebuysdirt.com, but your selling site where you're going to have your properties listed, you want to have something that pops up, something that really brings out their personality to your site. So for my example, I think I have lotsofcashoffers.com. So what you'll see here is just basically how we can start up our guide. So just by going to godaddy.com, navigating to our Go products after logging in, what you'll notice is the background may be different, and just keep in mind GoDaddy does update their background for their login portal quite a lot. So you'll see here that next we have to go to our My Products tab, and there's two ways to do that. You can either just click up here to My Products or go to the drop down box over here. But let's go ahead and actually just take a live look at our domains. So first thing that we'll notice, so let's start out from the beginning here. Give me 1 second. So again, we're just logged in and we're under My Products. So again, we're going to scroll down here and we're going to see our domains. So my domain that I'm working with today is my selling site domain, lotsofcashoffers.com. And we're just going to go ahead and follow along with this article here. So we're going to go all the way down to our domain where it says manage, and we're going to go ahead and click on that. So let's do that. Found my domain. When I click on manage, then a new window opens up. So let's go ahead and scroll through our article. So we're just going to want to locate our domain and make sure that it's in the right position. And then we're going to scroll to the top. We're going to click on DNS and we're going to click on manage zones. So let's go ahead and do that. So we found our domain here, and then we're going to go ahead and just type in DNS, not type in, click on DNS as well as manage zones. And then you'll see here the domain name and the domain name to search for. So my domain was lotsofcashoffers.com. And we'll just type that in. So again, you'll see this is the exact setup process as you are following along. And it really only took one letter for my domain to pop up, so just keep that in mind as well. So now the main section that we're going to focus on is our CNAME record. And we'll go ahead and click on that. So you'll see here, records, and we have our CNAME. So within this, let's go ahead and edit. And again, this is exactly what we're going to be working on, our CNAME record. And as soon as we click edit, you'll just notice here the pre-default options which were listed. So the host was under www. The points to was just that @ symbol. So you're going to go ahead and change that to investmentdominator.com. Then where it says TTL, which stands for time to load, you'll just change that to custom, as well as changing your seconds to 600 seconds. So it'll basically look like this. So your host, www, and then points to investmentdominator.com, TTL, and 600 seconds. So one thing I want to bring up is if you are actually not using GoDaddy, the steps will be relatively the same. You're going to want to point your CNAME record to the Investment Dominator in order to access our free security for your website, as well as connecting all of our services so that you can benefit the most from connecting the Investment Dominator. So that's really what you're going to do there. Then you'll see the next section. Once you're done, once you hit save, is you're going to work on the forwarding. So when you see your forwarding here, you'll just go right under domain and you'll click this edit symbol here. And you'll just make sure that you select the HTTP option since you do not need security from any place where you are buying your domain, since we provide it for free. And just go ahead and type in your domain name here, as well as the www dot and then the .com at the end here. And your forward type, select permanent, as well as your settings, select to forward only. So again, this is all reflected right here within the article. And if you ever get lost, you can just go ahead and just search this article again and just kind of catch up to speed with it. So then the last section that we have here is just to save. And then once you're done saving, then we can move over to our Investment Dominator again. So we could go over this. So now that we've connected our CNAME record to the Investment Dominator, now we have to map the domains to the Investment Dominator as well. So we're going to map our buying site and our selling site. So for this example, I'm actually going to be working with my selling site. So I'll go ahead here and I'll go to Customize. Then I'll go to Website Settings Selling. And you'll see right here is our default name for our domain. And what we're going to want to go ahead and do is actually hit the button to change our domain. And then it's going to ask for our domain name to enter it. So I'll just go back to here and copy this from where I was in GoDaddy. And I'll go ahead and just paste that here. So again, do not include the www dot since it's already pre-selected here. But the big question is, have you pointed your custom domain to the Investment Dominator via a CNAME record? So that's the whole process that we just did now. And one thing you'll actually notice is a confirmation one more time for our new selling site domain. And once we're done, we can go ahead and hit confirm to confirm the changes that we have. And right after this screen, and it confirms that our new domain has now been changed, one thing you'll notice is it'll bring an option up for you to generate your SSL. So again, this is your free SSL. And we'll actually show you an article on just how you can do that, just in case if you either skip the process by accident or if something else came up in the meantime. But what you'll see here is that our new selling site domain was updated right there. So if this is the first time you're setting up your website, you might notice something different. So you'll have two options. You'll have the OK option, and then you'll have the Generate SSL option. So for instance, let's go back to our user guide here, and let's type in SSL. So again, SSL stands for Secured Socket Layer. It's the reason why you really see a lock symbol here. And it's basically telling you that the website that you're browsing is secured and your information will be private. So you'll see an option like this. It'll say OK, or click here to secure your domain. So if it's your first time setting up your website, you'll actually want to go ahead and click the button to secure your domain. By doing that, you'll then see a button to generate your SSL, which is your free secured socket layer certificate for your website. So this will then make sure that Google ranks your website appropriately and you can be found by others and your information will be secure. So it really just takes a simple click of a button to generate your SSL. But if at any time you have any trouble in relation to this matter, go ahead and click the help button and then go ahead and submit a ticket, and then just basically tell us your process as well as linking to the issue and just tell us more information about this. So we could actually go over that in a little bit, but this is going to end our big three section. And we basically walk through all of the steps that you have to get started and up and running with the Investment Dominator. So you're going to want to have your profile section done. You're going to want to have your phone system set up, as well as any information regarding your company, your LLC. Then you have your domain section. Lastly, you want to have both your domains, your buying site and your selling site domains set up and ready to go. So let's go ahead and see all that we can do regarding the questions that we have for today. And let's actually take a look and see what we can find for now. See if we can find any solutions. One thing I do want to highlight is that we do have our weekly live Q&A calls. So again, this Monday session, which you're on right now, then we have our Thursday session. So at any time you can register to get weekly updates. So Monday session at 5, which is today's session. So thank you all for joining. And our Thursday session at noon, which is completely dedicated to an advanced section of the Investment Dominator. So just a quick update as well between the previous sessions of basically the live Q&A calls. If you go ahead and click that button, you'll actually see we're now updated on all of our videos pertaining to the live calls that we have with the Investment Dominator. So just keep in mind you are able to view these as well. So without further ado, let's go ahead and dive back into our questions. So if you have a question at any time at all today, again, please go ahead and let's see if I can pull up on that slide. Go ahead and submit your questions like so. But let's see if we can look at this now. So we have a question from David, and David's asking, how can we go over the requirements for importing a list, as well as some troubleshooting to some APN problems that we might have with the list due to Excel? So that's a great question, David, and it looks like he submitted a ticket as well regarding this. You know, whenever you're running into issues revolving around the Investment Dominator, and let's say, you know, you're trying to submit a list, for instance, and you'll get frustrated because you don't really understand like what you're supposed to do or how you're supposed to search for how you can like solve this issue. So, for instance, if you go over to your help section of the Investment Dominator, you'll actually notice there's a section for our user guide, which we use to go ahead and search our domains. So depending on the issue that you could be having, or depending on you know, what you're trying to integrate into your Investment Dominator, really using keywords around the subject that you're focusing on will definitely pop up with an idea of like what you can kind of solve and what you can do. So for instance, if we type in import into our user guide section that we have here and we search, what we're going to notice is that we're going to get all the articles related to importing either a land list or a housing list, or just really any articles that are in that relation as well. So just keep that in mind. And what you'll begin to then notice is this article. This is going to be kind of like a go-to guide for everything importing your land list. So for instance, if we actually go back into the Investment Dominator, besides this guide here, and you click on land, and then you go to import, there's actually a sample list that you have here. And this sample list is going to basically walk you through how you can set up your columns, as well as have the appropriate information for your list. So you'll have, you know, your column names all set up, as well as you'll see a place for you to enter your tags, and you could actually just work from this list directly, or just basically have both side by side and just making any edits or any changes. But let's say you want more of a condensed experience. So this article is actually going to have a graph basically showing you what's required out of that CSV file that you're working with. So for instance, we have first name here, which is required. Last name is required. you'll see that owner's first name, owner's last name, second owner's first name, these are not required. So really all of these bolded and in orange are going to be things that you need to have on your list in order for it to import, or else it will not import correctly. So, and then it'll break down below here, the 11 required import fields, so what we just talked about, as well as the optional 31 fields for information. And if you do really have all this information, it really goes a long way. So just keep that in mind. And that's going to be how you can basically like prepare your list, as well as kind of the steps that you have for importing your list as well. And there actually is a new feature here, which you'll see. So for instance, it's on the import land section. You'll see you can upload a format. So let's say, for instance, we're going to head to upload a list, and let's import this list here. So once you choose your file, then you'll notice it'll populate here, and this is when you can go ahead and hit upload list. So now when you upload a list, you'll actually notice that there's a pop-up, and it'll just briefly tell you to upload. It'll say upload CSV file. The system is importing your CSV file. When the process ends, you'll be notified. So you could go about going through your land section, let's say, for instance, or going about and working with any type of other records, or doing anything within your Investment Dominator, and then you'll come back, or you'll get a notification which will pop up, and the notification will basically alert you that your list was uploaded, as well as providing any details regarding that list as well too. So if we go back to our import section here, so you can kind of see the different examples that I have working with different CSVs and different types of lists. So for instance, we click on the details of one of these completed ones, you'll see that we'll pull up the exact information that we had when we first uploaded the list. And this is going to really change the way of how you can review any issues that you have with your list, as well as let's say if you have duplicate information, you'll actually be able to take note of that there. So just keep that in mind, that that'll be an option for you. And if you go over here to our land section, so that'll basically walk you through all the articles that you need to import and anything related to that. And it looks like, let's answer the second part of his question. So the second part was, what if I'm having APN troubles with my land list? So if you actually go over here and you type APN directly into the Investment Dominator user guide, again, you'll notice that it really goes off by keywords. So this is something that triggers this article here. And you'll see how to properly format APNs and zip code values in Excel. So one thing that you may notice is you'll get a APN format and it'll look like this. So what that's basically saying is that there's extra zeros that are added onto your list, and it's causing the number to format like such. But these formats are not going to be responsive when working with the Investment Dominator. So this is actually going to cause an error and basically tell you either that it can't upload the list, or that 0 records were imported because of this APN. Or in extreme examples, I have seen where a user will have thousands of records like that, but it'll have 4 APNs which are in this format, and basically it'll only say 4 records have been ported out of however many full records there are. So please go through this article, and you'll see that it also attaches to it looks like 2 more articles, basically on how you can walk through to alleviate both of these issues regarding to APN. So hopefully that answers your question, David, and glad to kind of help with that. So we have another question here, it looks like from Moni, And Moni's asking, what should I put in the company name section if I don't have an LLC yet? And do I need to create an LLC first? So again, let's actually go ahead and go back to that company information section. So we'll go to customize and under company information. So you'll see here. So if you do have your LLC name, you'll input it like such. But if you don't, then you want to keep in mind that you want to begin working towards getting your LLC name. But what you'll actually want to do is, for right now, until you do, you'll go ahead and put the initials DBA, which stands for doing business as. And this will allow you to then basically add your name as well to the side of this. And this will suffice and remain professional when you're sending out your mailings. And this is something that as soon as you get your actual company name and your LLC name, then you'll go ahead and switch that out. But for right now, in where you are, you can go ahead and just list this as such, and then you'll be good to go. So hopefully that helps you, Moni. And just another brief question on, it looks like, our land section here. So you'll notice within our campaign section, we do have new ways where you can generate your documents. So for instance, if you have been using the Investment Dominator for a while, and let's say you just got back on and you see this new update. So the first thing that you'll actually notice is that there now is a drop-down method for you to generate your documents. So don't be alarmed. It's really the same way as it was before. It's just a little bit more condensed now. So you'll see here for our prospect neutral letter, when we go ahead and generate our documents, we have options for the local printer, which I recommend if you're testing your documents. But again, if you are using a local printer, this will be helpful for you. Then you have your ITI direct templates, which is if you are using ITI before, this is a direct way on how you can basically generate those documents. So for instance, when you generate documents with ITI, you'll notice that before you had to provide two PDFs as well as a CSV file. So now, instead of just kind of going through that method, you'll see everything is just condensed right here. And what you'll actually notice is the PDFs, which were located before, are here, as well as that CSV. And if you wanted to download everything, just so you can congregate everything as well as sending it to ITI, then you could actually just download the zip folder, and this will include all the available documents up above. So let's say, for instance, you didn't want to use the ITI, so you want to use another service, for example, then you'll see this other tab here. And within this other field, what you'll actually see is that you have you have the doc type files here, and these are to be edited in any way which you would want. So for instance, when you click on these, you'll notice that the format is, you can change it anyway directly how you are supposed to specifically send to your mail house. So again, this is very helpful for that. And again, we have our letter template and our envelope template with these two editable files, as well as our CSV here and the option to download everything all together. So just kind of going it over. So let's say, for instance, you do use your local printer at home where you do business. You'll have all of the available formats which we saw earlier. So specifically, if you use the doc file to go ahead and generate your documents and edit them, or you have the PDF option as well as the envelope option. So for instance, the reason why I say it's good for testing too, so if you just made your, let's say, neutral letter and you've added all your changes and you wanted to see a draft of your neutral letter, you could actually just go ahead and click that and view it here. So for instance, me generating my neutral letter here, one thing you'll notice is the information that pops up. So the neutral letter will hold your company phone, which is here, as well as your buying site, and then you'll see here your company name will be then inputted there. Your buying site again right here, as well as your company phone. And then your company notes section does pop up as well at the bottom there too. So, you know, your times of service as well as your signature here. So do keep in mind of all the information. So we really walk through this, the big three. So the profile section, the company information section, then the domain section, because as soon as you send out that first mailing, all of this information that you input into the Investment Dominator should be set in stone and ready to go. So that way, if you send out a mailing, let's say today, and let's say you don't hear a response back until a year or two after, and you know, that does happen. Well, you might not think it does, but you know, keeping your information consistent, you are able to basically wrap someone in and you know, confirm interest, and you know, you just might not be hitting the person at the right time for your offer, but let's say later down the road they actually would like to turn to that, so they can always call you back, and they can, you know, for instance, see your hours of operation, your buying site, as well as your company phone. So do keep in mind, that's why we're doing all this process, and that's why we do all this setup. And if at any time at all you have advanced questions that you would want to leave for our Thursday session, you can go ahead and drop those in before we end our call here tonight. But keep in mind that our next session will be on Thursday, and it's going to be completely going over our advanced section with the Investment Dominator. Again, you can go ahead and click help here, and under weekly live Q&A calls, so just go ahead and sign up for that Thursday session, as well as review any previous sessions as well here too. So I would like to end on a quote here today, and the quote here is based on change, and you know, there's a lot happening in our world right now, and especially with the Investment Dominator 2, a lot of updates that are being made, and you know, things are hopefully making a turn for the best, and we're improving our services so that you really find things easier to come across as well as use and function with. But our quote here today is from Doug Baldwin, and it goes, change is inevitable, change will always happen, but you have to apply direction to change, and that's when it's progress. So even though the systems will change within the Investment Dominator as well as the surrounding business, one thing you have to keep in mind is that no matter what is going to happen, and while you can't always prepare for the future, you can really take action in what you're doing now with the Investment Dominator, and just realize that all your efforts will be noticed, and to keep putting more effort and more time into really, you know, setting up and getting these things started out right in the beginning, so that way in the future you really have, you know, less things to stress about, less things to worry about, and you'll have it really down pat. So just keep in mind that with everything in the Investment Dominator, if you aren't really as technical, we do have these guides, and we do have resources where you can get up to speed as well as not get behind in any of those matters at all. So thank you for joining our Monday session with the Investment Dominator. Do keep in mind that our Thursday sessions are going to be filled with advanced questions, so please come prepared after you are done with your big three and setting up all your basic information, and we'll go ahead and take a look at those questions as well on Thursday. So thank you all for joining today, and we'll go ahead and end the call for today. All right, so goodbye everybody.